Hey there, good day. This is Sir Yuan. Welcome to the first video lesson for art appreciation, where we'll be talking about visual arts. For this lesson, we'll be talking about four things. Number one, what is the visual language? How to judge an art piece or an artwork? What are the classifications of visual arts? How can we tell if the artwork or art piece is good or not? And what is beauty, right? So with visual arts, we have five main characteristics. We have painting. This is the practice of the application of paint, pigment, color, or other medium to a surface with a brush or other object or other medium. We have sculpture. Sculpture is a three-dimensional artwork created by shaping or combining hard and soft materials, actually. Typically stone or metal or glass or wood, or sometimes other materials such as clay, which is quite soft, and sometimes paper, which is a type of wood but processed wood you know and then we have architecture. It is the art of designing, erecting buildings and other physical structures. We'll be talking about that in a particular video lesson as well. And then we have drawing. It is a visual art that makes use of any number of drawing instruments to create or mark a two-dimensional medium or artwork or art piece. And then lastly, photography. Now, photography is an art of creating portraits by recording light uh, to a particular sensitive medium, such as film, and electronic sensors, especially with technology nowadays. So, first things first, what is the visual language? Um, I have here the generic visual language. However, there are a lot of other visual language that you may be able to pick up over the internet or just by observing a particular work of art or art piece by a specific artist. With excuse me, with visual language, it varies per artist, especially if the artist is trying to create a new way of looking at a particular art piece or artwork, or a new set of visual language. So we have here composition, line, form, color, angle, orientation. We have value or tone, space, scale, texture, shape, and pattern. Now, with composition, first and foremost, it is the arrangement of elements, the arrangement of lines, the arrangement of forms, shapes, colors, the placement of shapes, of patterns, of different shapes with different scales, the value, the darkness, and the lightness of the colors, the orientation of the painting. And then we have the angle, especially if you're talking about sculptures. We may also talk about the angle and the immediate form, and probably the indistinct or indirect, discrete or indirect form of a particular artwork or art piece. Shapes, the usual circles, triangles, hearts, a few irregular shapes. We have the forms. When we talk about the forms, it is different from shapes, as forms can be irregular, can be symmetrical or asymmetrical. With lines, you already know what line is. Color, how was the color being used? Do the colors mean anything? The orientation, is it in portrait orientation or in a landscape orientation? Or is it a in an irregular orientation where you're supposed to be looking from side to side? And then the pattern. how is the pattern used, how it's a pattern repeated, etc., etc. Later on, we'll have a few images that we may be able to practice on, and then you may be able to practice it on yourself with your other artworks and whatever you see as well. Now, how do we judge art? I would say we would need to judge art by using the generic visual language available to us. When we judge, apart from our preference, even if we like it or not, the artwork or art piece, we will need to describe what we see. We need to observe, as it is a visual art. We need to observe. We need to look at every detail from corner to corner, especially with painting. May it be a big painting or a small painting, you need to look at it from corner to corner and in the middle. This is because usually with paintings, with artists who paint seriously, they don't usually, well, for the most part, they don't usually have a singular subject. They usually try to fill the entire frame, the entire canvas, so to speak. So, with that being said, of course, we need to ask ourselves certain questions to describe um, the art piece. Let's say, for example, what colors does the artwork have? Is it a very warm color? Is it a very cold, cool color combination? Is it a combination of both warm and cool colors? How about lines? How many lines does the artwork have? Does it have repeating lines? Does it have lines that are, I would say, form a pattern? Does it have lines that are jagged, that are made to look like um, it was done in a hurry, how do you call that? In a very hastily fashion? Is there a pattern? What kind of patterns? Is it a series of circles, a series of lines still, a series of colors that create a motif? Um, are the elements balanced in the composition? Is there a tree on the opposite end? Um, does it have an imbalanced composition? Is it following the rule of thirds, for example, especially for photographs? And so we have those certain questions, especially when we're judging art. Now, with that being said, we have this idea of a good artwork or art piece and a bad artwork or art piece. And so, which begs the question, what is a good artwork or what is a bad art? I would say there is no such thing as a good or bad artwork or art piece. Um, Especially if, for example, in your particular fashion, even if we say we do not know how to draw, how to paint, how to take a good picture, um, what makes it good or bad is how we are influenced by others. There's no such thing, like I said, of a good or a bad artwork. The only thing that there is is if the artwork works or if it doesn't work. So, what works and what doesn't work. Now, the only time when an artwork or an art piece is good or bad is solely dependent on the preference of one perceiving the artwork or art piece. How do we know if an artwork works? Now, the first thing is to observe the artwork or an art piece as a whole using the visual language and its innate functions. Probably I have mentioned this before in one of our sessions where an artwork or an art piece has inherent functions, not just a personal function, but all three: the social, personal, and the physical function. This is because an artwork in itself is already valuable. Just as the artist, a human being or an individual, is also valuable. Then, therefore, like I said, or in some of our sessions, the artwork is an extension of the artist. So, in that particular sense, since the artist is a whole person, it has three values, all three functions. His or her artwork also have those functions. Now, the visual language determines the observable, while the functions determine the unobservable. Now, combining the two, the visual language and the functions, creates what we call meaning for the observer. And this meaning should not be imposed to other observers. This is what happens when you compare your drawing with your classmate. And so, if you see that the classmate is the classmate's drawing is quite good, he or she is a natural in drawing. It looks very clean. The lines are very um, arranged properly. The colors and all, etc., etc. And then you look at your own work, and it looks like trash. Then that entails the imposition of what a good and or a bad artwork should be, of which should not be the practice. Why? Nowadays we try to include other people to our conversation. When I say other people, I don't mean like other people like they are. I mean, like other people to our own discussion. So, for example, we do not just simply talk about male artists. We also need to talk about female artists and queer artists, for example. And so, since we have that particular thing going on right now, why would we impose um, our preference to others? Even if we say that um, I like how this person draws, and so I wish I would draw like him or her, doesn't necessarily mean that what you're doing is ugly or doesn't suit the idea of a painting or the idea of a drawing or a sculpture. No, it should not stop it. Even if you say now, sige, you are a nursing student, an OT student, an HRM student. Sir, I don't need art in my life. Well, actually, you do. This is simply because with visual arts, you see the world every day in color. It's just that we do not put emphasis on everything that we see. The only time we put emphasis on the things that we see is if in the presence of death and when we are born. So when we are born, we see certain things for the first time, born physically or metaphysically. So metaphysically mean to say first time ka naka-adto diri nga place or first time naka-attend a concert. So those first times would always be beautiful to you. Although succeeding would be normal to you. This is simply because you are used to it. Also, in the presence of death, when you are about to die, when you're growing old, everything will be beautiful for you. Even the chirping of the birds, that should not be the case. When the case should be is when you wake up, you see everything, you need to appreciate everything, even the normal glass, for example, the normal mug, the place that you are sleeping in, may it be your house or an apartment or your boarding house. You need to appreciate what is around you. Sir, it is difficult to appreciate. Yes, I understand. which is why we have art appreciation. So I'll be showing you a few things, a few images, actually two paintings and one photograph that would somehow and hopefully sway your ideals towards art and towards sticking or making simple things important, or how should I say that properly? To be more sensitive of the things around you. Okay. So again, there's no such thing as good or bad artwork. Oh, before that, since there are no such thing as good or bad artwork, what is beauty? Now, beauty is your preference. This is why we have the quotation, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And so, whoever perceives something, if he or she deems it beautiful, then it is beautiful for him or for her. You do not need to impose that to others. Now, visual arts are art forms that create works that are primarily visual in nature. So, makita, magunitan, mm, the sensation of seeing it. Yan. So, may it be ceramics through sculptures, pottery, drawing, painting, sculpture, printmaking, design, photography, video, filmmaking, and architecture. Those are all visual arts. Now, I'll be showing you a few images, two paintings, and one picture, and we'll discuss it using visual language and the functions. Also, you can read this at your spare time. I'll be sending you a PDF copy so that you may be able to see it. So here's the first image. This is a painting from 2018. This is my painting. This is A4 size, so it's quite small. The title is The Rose. Now, if you look at the painting, probably some of you would comment that it is a good color combination. There's a mixture of cool colors and warm colors. Um, Probably you like the idea of the patterns present on certain parts of the flower, and maybe overall it is appealing for you. Now, as I've said before or earlier, try to observe the painting from corner to corner and in the middle. So we have here one, two, three, four, five divisions. If you would notice, each division has different values or tones of the color reds, the color blue, color yellow, and the color violet. Also, per division, there are patterns. They may look similar, but they are quite different. And also, if you would look closely, per division, um, there is a reduction of the saturation of color. Maybe reduction and addition of saturation of color. Okay, so look at it as a whole. Lines. The lines are arranged accordingly as with the patterns. Probably we would say that the lines are arranged following the curves of the rose, the petals of the rose. Okay, so we have used the visual language. Now let's try to use the functions. So personal function. Uh, Probably for the artist loves flowers. Maybe he or she likes the rose specifically. No? What else? Oh, if you look at the middle of the painting, or kanang tunga sa rose, sa core, I think, it would appear that it looks like an eye, no? A peering eye, no? Maybe it is a eye, or maybe it's not an eye. But if you look closely, you would associate it with an eye. So what does that tell you? A flower with an eye, diba? Flower with an eye. What does that tell you? It would mean that, or it would probably describe that the flower is also alive, has life, also observes us. As we observe the flowers also observe us. Pwede. So what does it tell you in a more social sense? Um, as we, so since we observe the flower and the flower observes us, maybe people perceive us differently as we perceive them. So if we abstract it more, we would go to a particular quotation about do not do unto others what you don't want others to do unto you. This is because we perceive each other differently. You know, something like that. But probably for you, you have a different approach, you have a different understanding of the painting. But again, the painting uh, always have value, always have functions, all the three functions. Another painting, most probably I've uh, shown you this. This is La Mujer, my painting. Also, the first one was also my painting. Both of them were done year 2018. So in this painting, we have the female figure, nude female figure, in the abstract form. Um, if you would notice, the breasts or the boobs are being repeated. So we have two sets of boobs or breasts, and then if you look below, the curves of the hips are being repeated as well. So it looks like the female figure is exploding or vibrating. No, look at the lines. The lines are done in a hastily fashion, no, suggesting movement, most probably. And then the colors is quite warm. It is a, no, maybe not quite warm, but a very earthly tone. No, okay, it's color brown. Um, what does that tell you? For you, you may have a particular um understanding of the painting. However, for me, what I'm trying to say here is that since I'm of the opposite sex, I admire the female figure. Aside from its physical nature, I mean, I admire the female figure. However, in my admiration, so as the painting suggests, in my admiration, I also consider the physical strengths of the female figure, which is in this case in the case of the painting is both the breasts and the hips. The breasts would show it the female figure's kind of confidence, and the hips would show the female figure's strength. Now I would say confidence the female breast mainly because as per observation, if pasintabi lang sa mga girls, no, if usually as per my observation, if the girl has a flat breast, she is not very confident most of the time. I'm not saying all, but most of the time. And then for those female who have bigger breasts, they are more confident most of the time. Okay, I also know a few females who are quite gifted, pero they are very shy. So one thing, and then with the hips denotes the strength mainly because again the only individual who can give birth is the women, so that's part of their strength, biologically speaking. So that is la mujer, or the woman. Sir, on personal value, sa personal value, I Since I'm of the opposite sex, of course, I would admire women. However, it's not mutually exclusive. It is not kanang, it does not apply to all. It is only exclusive to me. This is because with other artists, some of them like the opposite sex, some of them like the same sex, some of them like both. So each to his own. So that's the second painting, La Mujer. The first one was the rose, and then the last one is a photograph. Now, this is a selfie. Okay, this is a selfie. Usually, when we take selfies, we take photographs of our immediate self, our face reflected in the mirror. We try to make ourselves the we try to make ourselves as pretty as we can. So we put makeup, we put filters, and. However, in this particular selfie, I created it in black and white. And this is because with the absence of color, you'll be focused on the photo itself. And I think that black and white is a true color of photography, not color, not full color like painting, but black and white. This is because in black and white, we are forced to look at the picture and look at the details. So if we try to use the visual language here, so we have lines, series of lines that would form certain shapes like jeepneys, windows, vandalism, what else? A building, seemingly building, my silhouette. Na yun nga na. And then what about the color? Well, we have the colors white, black, and gray. With the black being the darkest parts of the photograph, the white being the lightest parts of the photograph, and then the gray being the middle part or the midtones. Um, since this is a photograph, we can add another visual language, which is the bokeh or the out of focusness of the photograph. If you look at the photograph, is it out of focus? If it's yes, then we tick that particular box of the visual language. If it's not, out of focus, then all of it is in focus. Okay. So everything is in focus, then therefore it is flat. Okay, dili siya three-dimensional. Okay, everything is in focus. So it is one dimensional only. So it forces you to think. What else? Am I showing my face? This is a selfie. Am I showing my face? No, I am not showing my face. What else? Mm, are there other people in the photograph? You can make up a few things, maybe na yung mga tao sa sulod sa jeepney. We are not sure. Of course, there are drivers. Like how else would the jeepney move? Pero other than that, there are no visible people in the photograph. So okay, so we're done with the visual language. What else? Let's use functions. Personal function. Of course, like everybody else, I like taking photos of myself. Um, I like to put myself in different situations, different positions. However, I do not want to pretend that I'm someone else. And so I do not show my face. What does it tell you physically? Now, physically speaking, since we can see it, we can see the photograph, um, it has its limitations. It is enclosed in a rectangular shape. There is no other shapes after the rectangle. What else? Social function. The only visible subject is me. And so, what does that tell you? And also, it's black and white. So, what does it tell you? That all of us look ourselves in the mirror, simply because all of us would like to see ourselves in different positions in different situations. This is a general truth. We want to present ourselves um, as pretty as what's the right word, as presentable as we can. In this case, I want to present my true self, which is in black and white. I am, I would say, I'm fairly dark. I would think of things that are maybe depressing, that are maybe quite dark. I have a very dark humor. Probably you have already understood that. Sometimes I would use bad words to tell jokes, but it doesn't mean that I'm insulting everybody. It's just how I am. So I'm showing myself. Saying that. That's how art should be like. It should be an extension of yourself. This is why it is very important that we need to accept ourselves first and foremost before we create anything. You like Taylor Swift? Okay, that is good. You can relate to Taylor Swift's experiences because maybe you have the same experience. Why not create your own song? In this case, visual arts. Why not take a photo of yourself, a reflection of yourself in the most honest manner? Why not draw something or paint something from your most honest perspective about love, um, about being Filipino, about being yourself, diba? So that's how visual arts should be like. It should be an extension of yourself. And therefore, once you have accepted yourself, once you have created your own visual artwork or art piece, then you'll be able to appreciate others as their own, as they are. So that's how inclusivity works. So I hope you have a few takeaways. The exams will be in a few days from now. The PDF, well, I'll be sending you PDF files for you to review, and then you can head over to this particular lesson for reference, and so that you may be able to view this as often as you can, or as often as you want. Okay, until next time, stay safe and have a great day.